Hi, Annie.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So,
Good,
hello,
good.
wait, we're live.
We are live.
Yep. Hi, Annie.
All
All right,
right.
we're live, everyone. How are you? Oh,
Hello.
God, I forgot to turn this down. Welcome, everyone. Fridays with LT9K. We had a bang of a show at the Majority Report. It's time to end the week with yours truly. Remember, everyone, hit that like, share, subscribe, and as always, it is time to end that week with me. But I get a guest today. Ladies and gentlemen,
Yay!
you know her from our chats. Please welcome Annie Fitzgerald. Welcome, welcome.
Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. How's it going?
It's good, good, good.
I'm
So,
glad this is working. Bear with me. I have to literally hold my phone in my hand. So,
hey, hey, no worries. So, you start promoting yourself first. We're gonna do it in the beginning and end.
okay. Hi guys. I think a lot of you know me already, but my name is Annie Fitzgerald. My pronouns are she, her, and I guess I'll just give a brief introduction if that's cool. So, just a brief history about me. I was born with multiple disabilities, and I grew up watching my mom be an incredible disability advocate for me, and I learned so much. And when I became an adult, I learned how to advocate for myself, and I started trying to advocate for others in the disability community. That was my first foray, I guess, into activism. And then later, I kind of started getting into political activism a little bit. I joined Democratic Socialists of America in 2019, baby. And
Yo.
my very first DSA meeting was a Medicare for All meeting.
Ooh.
And yes, it was a local Medicare for All meeting through my local chapter. And continued to be a DSA member even when I temporarily moved to Florida for a couple of years. And that was interesting.
No.
I was a member of the Polk County and Tampa chapters in Florida. In 2021, I served as co-chair on the National Medicare for All DSA National Medicare for All Steering Committee, and basically the job of that committee was to help instruct DSA chapters across the country on how to organize around Medicare for All. And unfortunately, that committee was disbanded after 2021,
Ooh.
and DSA has not done any Medicare for All advocacy work since then that I'm aware of. Um, and so since then, I've continued to organize in DSA um, at my local and national level. I'm a member of the National Disability Working Group, which we are working to revive right now.
Oh.
And I recently joined the National Mutual Aid Working Group.
Yeah.
And also, in relation to healthcare, last year I joined Whole Washington, which is the org that we kind of briefly talked about last week. Um, and since May of this year, I've served as Director of Disability Justice and Accessibility for Whole Washington. And I also presently lead our healthcare and disability justice working group in my local DSA chapter. And one final thing,
Yeah.
because I'm a busy girl,
Mm-hmm. I tell.
most of you are aware that I also ran for state rep last year, and I'm gonna say, even though we didn't win, I'm very proud of the campaign that we ran, um, because we made it all the way through to the general on the first on my first campaign, and ended up getting a little bit more than 20% of the vote on a less than $2,000 budget for the whole campaign. So I'm pretty proud of that.
I'm sure you are actually, but you told me
So
this. Yeah, and that's a big brief history of you. But you told me this on Discord, and you're considering running again as an independent.
yes.
So tell us why.
Okay. Well, as I'm sure anyone watching this video is aware, the Democrats, both nationally and in many of our states, have been a great disappointment. Um, and I think I honestly, I feel like that's an understatement. The Democrats, in many ways, have failed us. Um, they are. No, I'm not saying. Okay, let me back up a second.
Okay.
I'm not saying that all of our Democrats are bad or that they're not doing. All of them are not doing our jobs, but they're not fighting back hard enough. We are in the midst of an authoritarian fascist regime, and we are not seeing leadership uh stand up to that. We are not seeing leadership embrace the left side of the Democrat Party, which, I mean, they've never really done that, if we're honest. And that is where the a lot of the base is going. And they're still trying to operate as though it's business as usual. They're still trying to operate like it's, 2 years ago and we're still under like Democrat control. And we're not. I mean, I think it's time that we have like an honest conversation about, the Democrat Party as a whole. And, uh, you know, I think those conversations are starting to happen, at least at the local level. But um, I definitely plan on running again next year. But I, oops, I dropped my
Oops.
phone.
No, no, no. You're good. You're
I,
good. You're
um,
good.
I, I honestly feel like I just don't know if the Democrat Party is ready for a progressive wave. And I think it's coming. I have heard from a lot of, I've been watching, I've been paying close attention. I've heard from other progressive leftist candidates that are rising up. DSA has several leftist candidates that they are endorsing socialist. Let's be clear, not just leftists, but democratic socialist candidates across the country that they are endorsing and supporting. And I think that's only going to increase. So, I mean, it's a really tough call to decide whether to stay on the Democrat ticket or to go independent. I also think, and I also think it really depends on the district, and where you're living.
Mhm.
In some districts, you might be able to get more conservative support if you ran as a independent. Um, and um, like in my district, so I am technically running for an office right now. It's called the Snohomish County Charter Review Commission.
Ooh.
Um, and basically, what it is it is a commission that meets every 10 years, and they essentially set the laws and make recommendations to the county council for the next 10 years. So, if anything, it's a really important race. It's probably one of the more important races happening in my area right now, if you ask my opinion on it, because of the length that these recommendations and laws would be in effect for. Um, and I am, you know, it's definitely down at the bottom of the ballot. So it's like not one of those things that I'm like, it's more of a messaging campaign than it is like I'm actively fundraising, I'm actively calling people, I'm actively doing all the normal like campaign things. Um, but it's a way to kind of keep my name out in the spotlight, to keep that name recognition that I developed last year while preparing for the real race next year, and the bigger race,
No, yeah.
so but the thing is that my county council district is different than the state representative district. The county council district is very deep crimson red. So whereas the state representative district is more like blue purple. Um, so, I've really had to think about, how do I reach the farmers in my district? How do I reach out to like the more rural communities that have been overlooked in many ways by Democrats in the more urban communities? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, so, um, and I think, messaging is going to be key. And, and like, sorry, I have a little frog in my throat.
No, no, you're good.
Um,
You're good.
and, so, I think that's going to be super important. And like, we really need to be like doing our best to reach out to the working class communities, because that is the base that I believe Democrats are losing. Um,
Big time.
and they're losing quickly. Um, I think I saw a report, briefly saw a report yesterday that um, Republican voter registrations are up across the country.
Wow.
And yeah, and what are Democrats doing right now to address that? I don't
Well,
know.
no, I can't explain that. Republicans, what are they doing? Jesus. We already know.
Yeah, we already know. We see it on our phones, on our news feeds every single day. I think a lot of us here are, we watch Majority Report, we watch other lefty channels, we're plugged in, we're aware, we're out in our communities, we're out there protesting, right?
Right.
We're out there doing what we can in our communities, but not everyone is tied in like we are, and those are the people that we need to reach. But I do think that people are starting to wake up as those, economic policies kick in, and people are starting to feel it like in their wallets.
Of course. Like, not use so much cash for the APAC or super PACs and what name you. Like, like give money to the Democrats or say Republicans for their big donations, like have you. or tax for us working people. What would you say to that?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
So, like, give the money to like the Democrats, like say for example, Gavin Newsom, who's running for California office, or Republican donation. Like, what would you say to that in advance of like how would you reach the disabled voters?
Yeah, disabled voters are, I I believe, I can't speak for the entirety of the disability community, obviously. I'm only a small part of it, but the people that I talk to we're scared. We're terrified. We are very much aware of what's, the consequences of the big bullshit bill.
That's what I.
And and we know that those cuts are coming. We know that the ACA subsidies that a lot of people rely on are ending uh, at the end of this year. We know that Medicaid cuts are coming by the end of next year. We know that these things are coming. And and also we also know that Social Security is under attack. When people often talk about Social Security, they think about like, oh, retirement, my grandma and grandpa. But what they don't realize is that what many people don't realize is that a lot of us who are disabled under the age of 65 also rely on Social Security. Um, and like for me right now, my SSDI check is my sole source of income, and it is not enough. It's
Uh,
never enough.
uh, uh,
Um,
uh,
in fact, like our COLA increase for next year was just announced, and it's going to be 2.7%. For me, that is about $40. um, so they're like, "Hey, we'll start shooting you an extra $40 a month in January." But it's like, "Oh, thank you. You're so generous. You're so kind. Um,
very, very
thank
generous.
you." Yes. And and so like, and another thing is that like a lot of people don't realize that Medicaid isn't just for healthcare. It also provides services for disabled children like in schools.
Hmm.
Um and so like children who who have disabilities are also that are essential to be able to attend and participate in school. And um, like I can tell you just from my own personal experience that had I not had the disability services that I had when I was a child, um, I I would I would not be. I don't think I would necessarily be in the same place that I am today.
Oh my.
Um, I my teachers wanted to put me in special classes simply because I was visually impaired,
What?
not because I had an intellectual disability, but because I'm visually impaired and I used a wheelchair sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, and my mother fought back and said, absolutely not. And had those services not been there, I don't know if I would have been able to attend regular classes with my classmates. Um, had I not had those services as a child, um, I don't think I would have had my vision teacher who, because when I was a child, they thought I was going to be blind by the time I turned 14. So they
Yeah.
were preparing me for this from like second grade. And they taught me how to read Braille. They taught me how to get around my city and my environment using a cane, and like not being able to, like, they were preparing me to become blind. And had I not, had Medicaid not been a thing, I don't know that I would have received those services and I would have fallen behind my classmates and my peers, which, I mean, due to my medical circumstances, that ultimately ended up happening later. But, like, I feel that people don't really understand all the things that Medicaid does. It helps pay for transportation to and from appointments. It helps cover the cost of things like copays and deductibles. It does so many different things. So the loss of Medicaid alone is going to be devastating. And
Of course.
even if you do not have any of these services or you don't know anyone that has any of these services, you will absolutely be affected by this. Hands down. We are all human beings. We all require healthcare, right? So,
Absolutely.
another stat, I'm going to throw out another stat. 60% of hospital funding comes from Medicaid. So, what happens when 60% of hospital funding goes away?
Ooh. If that goes
Think about
away,
that.
how about
Think
that?
about that.
Oh my God. We will be all
It's
dead with that hospital.
the cost of healthcare premiums for standard insurance is going to skyrocket.
Yep. Yeah.
Insurance companies are going to say, "Oh, well, we're losing all this money." Hospitals are going to say, "We're losing all this money. How are we going to stay open?"
Yeah,
So
that's what I'm
insurance
thinking.
premiums are going to go up. Hospitals are going to close. Clinics are going to close. There's going to be far longer wait times. It's going to get exponentially worse for everyone.
Hmm. Like, yeah, like not just regular hospitals, the children's hospitals could close too, especially the longer times. I mean, it would
Yeah.
be horrible, say, because now that we got someone that can speak like this is running, the Health and Human Services,
Oh
I'm gonna
God.
throw the vaccine away. So I got this question from Donald James X. Do you feel your campaign has the match the opposing campaign's money, or how much funding do you think you need to run your campaign? Some states can be worse than others.
So how much money do I need to run my campaign? Is that what's being asked?
So here he asks, do you feel your campaign has to match the opposing campaign's money, or how much money do you think you need to run your campaign?
Okay, okay. No,
No.
no, no. I don't think. Now that doesn't mean I don't need to raise money. Absolutely, I'm gonna need to raise money. But if and I'm not saying this to brag. I swear to God, I'm not saying this to brag. But if I could, like, make it all the way through to the general last year on less than $2,000, people can win campaigns with lower funding. I truly believe that. It doesn't mean that we don't still need to do fundraising, obviously. But I think I think grassroots campaigning is key. It's super important. It's super important to make it clear to your voters that you're not taking corporate PAC money. I don't really want to take any PAC money um, because like last year I was invited to sign a pledge saying that I wouldn't take any more than $200 in PAC money. Honestly, I felt uh, con- conflicted even signing that because I don't want any PAC money. I don't want to be beholden to a PAC. I want to be beholden to the constituents that I would be serving. That is my job.
Uh,
And we need to make it clear to voters that we are here to serve them, that they are my employer, not a PAC. And so, but unfortunately, you know, opponents that I would be up against next year. I don't think they've received that memo yet, and
Oh no.
um, the opponent that I'm looking to potentially run against again next year, he does a lot of events where he's schmoozing with other people in attempts to do fundraising and um, like, hey man, you do you, but I'm going to be out here trying to talk to the people. I'm going to be out here running a grassroots campaign. Um, and so, yeah, like, you know, again, like, we got to fundraise. It's just the system that we're still in. But I do think that campaigns, we don't necessarily need to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars to win. To me, it's more about like who you are as a candidate and the your messaging and the things that you're trying to accomplish as a candidate. And if you are, you know, out there to serve your community and it shows, then people will support that.
That's right. I mean, go out, support somebody that's independent, and actually, yeah, join a local grassroots organization. Okay, I have another question. I have Rich P 1K that asks, and how long do you think that DSHS can operate, or do you think they'll completely change how they do things?
Wow, that's a tough question. I, I am not directly connected to DSHS in any way, obviously, but I have spoken with a friend of mine who does work in DSHS, and I will say that according to my friend, um, they were only beginning to review the big bullshit bill after it had
Uh,
already passed and been signed into law. So, like, if they weren't looking at it intently before it became law, would it why? They should have
yeah.
been like preparing for this beforehand. So and basically what I was told, this is information from about a month ago, but basically what I was told is that they are not ready. They are not ready. They do not have a plan. They are not ready. They were still reviewing the information at the time and developing a plan. They are expecting layoffs. Um, like, it really is terrifying to hear that because
Ah,
you expect that these organizations that are like supposed to be working for the people, like why are they not preparing for these things? Why are they not being proactive and like researching these things ahead of time as soon as they are announced? That is one benefit of this horrible authoritarian fascist regime is that they really love to advertise what they're about to do. So, um, they're all over the news and social media and stuff, talking about all the fascist things that they're about to do. So, we may not always have much warning, but oftentimes we have warning. We know what's coming. So, um, I again, like I sympathize with DSHS workers. I'm sure that they are already overworked and underpaid. Um, but at the same time, I was extremely disappointed to hear that they were more or less playing catch up. And after this bill had passed, and
mm-hmm.
you know, it uh, it's really concerning. One of the things that I'm going to be calling for and pressuring my state legislature for between now and the end of the year is to call a special session to come in during the off season and start planning and start trying to mitigate some of this damage that we know now is coming. Um, I have heard that they do not want to do this. They do not want to come in on a special session, and that
What?
yeah, um, and I'm the excuse I've heard is that they're concerned about the budget because Washington State recently had to make a ton of budget costs. And, sure, it costs money to come in on a special session. You have to you have to pay the employees, like you have to compensate the legislators that are coming in during the off season, blah blah blah. Frankly, I think state legislatures should operate year round, and legislators should be paid a much better wage than they often are. But that's a whole nother can of worms. But when we're living through times like this, I feel like we're living through unprecedented times, so we need to take unprecedented steps. And so I am certainly going to be, you know, oh, and yes, I just saw a comment. Yes, they are absolutely under resourced.
Yeah,
Um,
that's not
they
what we.
are absolutely under resourced. And like, and I get that, but like in whole Washington, in DSA, we're all volunteers. We are all volunteering our time. Some of us, like last month, I probably volunteered about 30 plus hours of work a week. So,
Wow.
um, a lot of us are volunteers and we are putting in a ton of work to try to, help our communities right now. So, like, I don't know. The legislators kind of need to get up off their butts and come in and do this special session, so that we can get, so that we don't have to waste the
Sure.
regular session um, spending time on this so that they can focus on other also important, equally important issues during the regular session.
And I'm saying that's a lot. Yeah, it is a lot, Donald. Let me ask, what is Annie's opinion on Act Blue?
um, I don't. I mean, I use Act Blue. I used Act Blue last year. It is a one of the only platforms that I'm aware of that allows for Democrat fundraising. A lot of people don't realize that on the back end they have like services and programs and stuff to help candidates too. So it's I don't really have an opinion on Act Blue either way. Um, like I it's if I could find a different service, then I would consider it. But honestly, like I don't really have an opinion. I heard there was some sort of controversy like a couple weeks back, but I don't know the details of it.
Yes.
So like having a service like ActBlue is really helpful for candidates also because we have to do a lot of reporting to our like state government on our fundraising. Regular, usually monthly, sometimes more frequent reporting. Um, I have not done any fundraising yet.
Oh,
Uh, but even I still have to do reporting. I have to like report like, hey, I haven't raised any money this month. Um, and so like, having that service Act Blue really helps because it basically forms a report and then that you can take that report and submit it as part of your report to the state. So it saves a lot of time and money in doing things like that.
mm-hmm. And yeah, so yeah, I have another one. So yeah, Rich P asked another one. Are there any plans by the current Washington State government to actually fight what's happening? Are they all they're just doing the quote unquote everything is fine dance?
Um, so, um, I have opinions. Um, so again, we have a Democrat governor. However, I consider him to be kind of a dino.
Oh God.
He, yeah, I mean, he's he's doing good things for the immigrant community. They've come out and said that they are going to, protect trans and LGBTQ communities, things of that, like standard like Democrat things, right? And he gets a lot of flack for it from from the Republican constituents and whatnot in our state. Um, but does it through like press conferences. And so, which is fine. I mean, you got to announce it somehow, right? You got to tell people what you're doing somehow. But it feels, it is yet to be seen, in my opinion, whether there's going to be any meat behind it. Um, and, or whether it's all just kind of virtue signaling. Um, I hope I'm wrong. I hope that, he really does sue the feds over a couple of issues that they have announced that they're suing the feds over. Like Washington State, just recently. Um, so back in like 2019, I want to say, I think it was 2019. There was a
God.
law that was signed into law to I think it's the Keep Washington Working Act or something like that. Um, and it is basically, a sanctuary state law um, that, more or less says that our law enforcement is not going to cooperate with ICE. We are not going to assist ICE with their fascist immigration policies. And we've had ICE all over Washington State in the last few months. And people on Reddit are very good about warning about where ICE is, I've noticed. And recently, um, Governor Ferguson announced that he received a letter from Pam Bondi threatening our state and
What?
saying that, yeah, they received a letter from Pam Bondi threatening our state and saying that, basically more or less saying that if Washington State does not cooperate with ICE, that they will sue. And
Right.
basically, our governor was like, we already have a law saying that, we are not, we protect our immigrant communities and we do not cooperate with federal authorities. We do not assist federal authorities. So go kick rocks, Pam Bondi, is more or less what
Yeah,
he said.
please. Like, go kick fucking rocks, please.
And and I believe our AG, our Attorney General, has filed a lawsuit to counter this. But we he's a brand new governor, so we have yet to see, like,
Uh,
he was just signed in as governor this year. So and he was our AG for many years prior to being governor. So he's very much a go by the books Democrat, not gonna rock the boat kind of Democrat, very pro police Democrat, very pro law enforcement. He signed laws or not signed laws. He cut funding to a lot of government services and increased funding for police. Um, so, Washington is a very blue state, but we still, we still have our like issues. We still have, um, you know, um, Democrats that seem like they want to spend more time catering to the corporations and to the right than they do their own constituency in my state. And that's a real problem. However, I will say that uh, last year, we had our very first Democratic Socialist elected to the state legislature. His name is Sean Scott, and he represents the, I believe, Seattle's 43rd district. And he is our first socialist legislator in over 100 years. So the tides are changing. And I am hoping that uh, there will be many more to follow. We just had our mayoral primary, and the progressive candidate won in the Democrat primary. So, I'm excited for these things. It gives me hope. It gives me like faith in the community. But we still got to deal with some of these Democrats that have been there for way too long and care way too much about corporate interests in our state. Can I give you an example?
Sure, go ahead.
So last year in the state legislature, a wealth tax was proposed, a progressive wealth tax to because we already have a capital gains tax in Washington that a wealthy Republican put forward ballot initiatives last year to try and repeal the capital gains tax, but fortunately it didn't work. um, so we do have a capital gains tax, but there was a proposal for a wealth tax, and that would tax some of the wealthiest Washingtonians in our state. And Washington is kind of somewhat of a tax haven. We have very low tax rates compared to other states, and it's abundantly clear that that is a problem because we are seeing our state services losing funding and not having enough to continue to do the work that they need to do. And the governor shot down the wealth tax, and
Wow.
and like you know we have like something like 13, I want to say 13 billionaires in Washington, over like 60,000 millionaires, because we have corporations like Amazon, Boeing, Expedia, so we have a lot of wealthy folks in Washington, and you know, um, they need to pay if you have two, three, four houses and make millions and millions of dollars a year, you need to pay your fair share in taxes, period. We're not trying to raise taxes on the middle or working class. We're trying to raise taxes on the wealthiest of Washingtonians who can afford to pay more and just aren't. And it's a real problem. And I think we are kind of starting to see that play out when we're starting to see all these cuts to like state services. Uh, and yes, Donald, we do have a sales tax. There was recently a like 6 cent a gallon gas tax raise implemented, but I don't believe in that we should be funding our government, our state government, based off of the backs of the middle and working class. I believe that raising taxes on the working class, like the working poor and the dwindling middle class, doesn't help. Who we need to be taxing are those that are, you know, at the top five, the top 1% in our state, and that's why I believe in a progressive wealth tax.
Right, right. And it is such bullshit that you got millionaires and billionaires in Washington State. Now the next question is like, so I showed 2 videos last week that you sent me, like the meeting, and then you had that little short video that you sent me.
Mhm.
And then in the video, that meeting you sent me, I saw a bunch of old, senior citizens in that meeting. Not much
Mhm.
younger people. I mean, how can younger people join a grassroots movement? How can they get involved?
That is a really good question. So like our senior citizens, at least in my, observations in my communities, they are rising up. Our local, like, indivisible group, is doing all kinds of work in my community, in my county. um and like, but our like the DSA chapter that I belong to, um you know we we saw, like, after the election in November, we saw a massive, like, influx of new members, many of which are younger. Now, we have members in all age groups. We have, peoples in their 20s, 30s, 40s, but we also have people that are, seniors. Um, I think the problem, but, like, so we had this massive influx. So our first, like, few months worth of meetings in 2025 were so packed that we had to book bigger rooms. We were regularly, like, we were used to having meetings of like 20, 25 people, but we were like, the first few months of 2025, we were having meetings where we had like 60, maybe like 50, 60 people in the room, and then maybe like another five or so on Zoom. So we were having like super packed meetings.
Right.
But since then, since about March or so, we lost like a ton of those people.
Oh,
We lost like maybe half. Um, and now we're back down to, like, um pre-election meeting sizes. And, I'm not saying that they left the org, because they might still be a part of the org. It's just our meeting, like, sizes kind of shrunk. And it's not to say that we don't still recruit new members, because we do. It's just not the same as it was after the election. So, we might get like one or two new people a month, or a couple of new people, at meetings, whatever. Um, but it's kind of, I'm kind of sitting there like, gee, I wonder what happened. I don't know if it's, because people got busy, people, are working like two, three jobs just to make it. I don't know, if people are like feeling overwhelmed mentally and emotionally, and they just, needed to check out. I'm not sure what the reason behind it is. It's certainly something that I would like to explore further. But uh, there are plenty of ways that younger folks can get involved. Um, I, uh, like, DSA is a really, really good place to do that. Um, like, you know, like I said, I joined DSA in 2019. Is DSA a perfect organization? Absolutely not. Um, we certainly need to do more organizing and advocating around Medicare for all. I really wish that we hadn't like stopped doing that. We really need to do better about advocating for the minorities within our DSA chapter, especially LGBTQ and trans folks, as well as like disabled people. Um, a lot of disabled DSA members feel like the org is kind of um, not really giving us the like organizing spaces that we need. But we continue to press forward. We continue to support other DSA organizing. Um, you can get involved in mutual aid work. Um, like a lot of I think the need for mutual aid is going to go up as economic circumstances continue to get worse. More and more communities, more and more people are going to need mutual aid, and we're not going to be getting that assistance from our government. So we're going to need to give it, provide it for each other. So I think that's something that's really important to look at too. There are lots of different mutual aid organizations out there that people can get plugged into. Um, and I think something that I kind of touched on a moment ago, but I think is really important to kind of reiterate is that um, if you have privilege, if you are a cis white person,
Mm-hmm.
um, please, please help your minority communities right now. We need your support. Um, LGBTQ, as I'm sure we're all aware, LGBTQ and trans people are under constant attack. Um, I'm a member of the LGBTQ community myself, and you know, uh, I feel terrible for my trans comrades out there. Um, Disabled people, we need your help. We need your support. People of color, immigrants uh, need your support. And it's not just about money. It's not just about donations, but it's about giving your time when you can. It's about showing minority populations that you care and that you hear them, and that you know sometimes even just kind words of support really go a long way. Sometimes you know when I'm stressed out, when I feel like overwhelmed, when I'm worried, am I going to have enough money to like, pay my bills next month? Am I is my social security about to get taken away? Am I going to be able to cover my copays? Am I going to be able to do the things that I feel like I need to do? Sometimes just like a kind word from someone really goes a long way in kind of lifting me personally out of that slump. So just kind of knowing that like my community has my back really does help. And I think that um, I know it's hard. I know people are broke. I know people are overworked. People are feeling overwhelmed.
Mm.
And that's what this, administration wants us to do. They
Mm.
want us to focus on ourselves. They want us to have to worry about paying our own bills. They want us to focus so much on working our 2, 3, 4 jobs. They want us to feel like there is no hope. That is how they want us to feel. They want us to feel broken down. And sometimes just resisting that sentiment, just resisting that and saying, I will not let you break me. And I have these people in this community that are backing me up. Uh, Sometimes that goes a long way. Um, and I get like, people, I don't expect people to do everything. I don't expect people to volunteer as much as I do. Um, like, if I had a job, I probably wouldn't be able to volunteer nearly as much. I'm returning to school in the fall, and like, I'm probably gonna have to like figure out how I'm gonna balance my volunteer hours, my campaign, and school. Like, I get it. People have busy lives, but the point is that like we need to be there for each other, and as much as we can. And so um this administration wants us to feel bogged down. They want us to feel overburdened, and we can't allow that to happen. We must resist.
Mm-hmm. So reference running asks, what are you going to study?
Oh, so I am studying to become what's called an art therapist.
Mm.
Um, and hopefully by the time I finish my degree, AI won't have taken my job. Um, but basically, an art therapist is basically like a mental health counselor that helps people cope and deal with their issues through creative expression through art. um, Whether that's drawing or painting or expressing yourself through other artistic mediums. um, a mental like an art therapist helps people get through things and process mental health issues in that way. I still have several years of schooling left to go. I'm about halfway through my bachelor's, and then I have to do a master's program to become a licensed art therapist. But it's something that I'm really passionate about because I used to work as a private investigator um, for, gosh, several years until I burned out because I realized that I was doing more to help insurance companies screw people over than I was actually helping people. And so I decided that it was really time to re examine life and make a career change. And that's when I decided to go back to school. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So like I'll address you in 1 minute, but I gotta get this question for Donald James X. Does Annie have any law experience?
I do not. I do not have any legal experience, other than like, I do have a criminology degree from many years ago, but no like law experience.
Okay. So I need to address this to you. A managing mod is the one that bans trolls and can time out any bond. So you understand what I'm saying? Anyway, welcome to Carrot Burning. She says billionaire bear spelling in my honest opinion. Now let's move to my next question. For the big bullshit bill, right? And it's going to affect disabled people with their Medicare, their retirement, and their cost of living. What do you have to say about that?
um, well, uh, it's uh, you know, what do I have to say about like retirement and stuff?
Yeah,
and
for
cost of living.
retirement in case anyone that's disabled that's in the workforce.
Right, right. Well, you know, I like disabled people who are working have a tough balancing act. Because in many cases, if you're disabled and you're working, you but you still need services, you still need supplemental social security income, you still need Medicare, Medicaid services. You are extremely limited in how much work income you are allowed to make. So, like for Social Security, um, I am allowed to make up through employment income. I'm allowed to make up to $1,000 a month before it starts, before it triggers Social Security. Um, and then if I make over that amount, then like I have to report it to Social Security. Uh, it starts this whole process where I get like this 9 month grace period where I'm allowed to work and make whatever I want. But if I continue after that 9 months, if I continue to make well above what the limits are, then they start cutting back on your Social Security benefits. It can also affect your Medicaid and Medicare benefits. So I've been saying this for a really long time. Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security are, although they were designed to help disabled and retired people, they often hold us back. And um, by limiting um, how much income we can make, by um, limiting the kinds of assets that we are allowed to have. Like I'm not allowed to own more than one vehicle. Um, I recently had to so like I was still on um the registration for a vehicle that I used to own with my ex, and I recently had to get a new car because I couldn't drive a stick shift anymore because of my disabilities, and I had to literally talk to my ex and make sure that he removed me from the registration so that Social Security wouldn't think that I owned two cars.
Oh,
Um, and we're not talking about nice cars here. We're talking about I bought a 12-year-old car. Like,
a 12
you
year old
know,
car.
it's not like I'm, driving a brand new luxury vehicle or anything. But um, disabled people that are able to work, in some ways I kind of envy them because I'm, at least they can. But you know, and I'm very like because of my disabilities, it's really hard for me to find employment. Um, because often I, require a lot of sick days or I need a lot of like accommodations. So it's difficult to work as a disabled person because you're not really you still kind of have to remain impoverished uh to continue to receive services. And like the 9 month program that I was talking to you about, um it's supposed to be a program to help people get off of Social Security, but in many ways it does the complete opposite because like I'm at a point now where you know my Social Security, like I can only speak from my own experience, but I'm at a point now where my Social Security income is not nearly enough. I need at least another like $700 a month to continue to pay my bills that have recently increased. But um but like if if I have to be super careful about I'm like right now for my school for this year. I'm looking at trying to find like a work study job or something I can do part time while I'm still in school. But it's really hard. I haven't found any work study jobs yet, so I might have to like get a student loan. It's a whole mess, but um, it Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, they often keep you impoverished, and we don't really have a good program for people to get out of these services if they are able to support themselves. And the other problem with that is it is like, and I've had this experience myself where maybe I'm able to work for, this applied a lot more when I was younger, but um, maybe I'm able to work fairly steadily for a year, 2 years, maybe. But then I get sick again, or something happens, and then I require services again. And a lot of times, if once you get removed from those services, it's really hard to get back on. And that is under like normal circumstances. We're not even talking about how hard it might be under this administration. Often people can wait. It can take many, many years just to get Social Security services in the first place. So um, they certainly need a better program to support um, disabled folks who can work and are able um, to be able to support themselves. I'm also um, they Social Security started using like AI in their call services, like call centers, um, and that's gonna cause a massive mess. Um, they've cut a huge chunk of the Social Security workforce. They are trying to destroy this program that, prior to this, it's never been perfect, but it was much better than it is now, right?
Right.
And basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to destroy it so they can then turn around and say, see, look, it never worked. It didn't work. Look how bad it is. So that's why we need to privatize it, right? Now, I kind of got the disability lottery to some extent. Like the thing that qualifies for me for my disability is my like vision disabilities, because I'm legally blind, even though like
Yeah.
I can still see, but I'm legally blind. And so that kind of like that's never going to go away. That's never going to change. It's a permanent disability. It kind of, in many ways, kind of like gives you the green light as far as like these services go. So if I lose my services, it may not be as difficult for someone like me to get back on, but most people with disabilities don't have that. Especially if you have like a mental health disability or, like a chronic illness. Those can be extremely hard to document and receive services for. Um, so, you know, um, we we need to protect these services as much as we possibly can. Um, Also, you were talking about retired people. My parents are both elderly. They're both like in their late 70s, and I am extremely concerned. My parents currently own a home, but and receive Social Security and Medicare, but like they're getting older. They are dealing with more health issues, and like as of I've been trying to talk to my parents about like, look, we need to talk about like a plan. You're having more trouble taking care of your yard and your garden. Like, these things, these cuts are coming. We need to come up with a plan. We need to figure out what are we going to do if you lose your Social Security? What are we going to do if you lose your Medicare? And I'm sure that I am not the only millennial having these kinds of conversations with their parents right now. And like honestly, I don't have a plan. I don't know what I'm gonna do if my parents lose their services. And you know, I think we're gonna see an increase in our senior citizens losing their services, being kicked out of nursing homes. That's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
We are going to see senior homelessness rise in this country,
Oh yeah.
and you know, and like I don't have a plan, and I don't think that our Democrat government electeds necessarily have a plan either. And because I feel like they spend a lot of time responding to this administration after this administration does something horrible, um, and not enough time being proactive and planning in advance.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. So, and that's what they do every day. They're like on TV. So
Hmm.
CNN, MSNBC, oh, soon to be MS Now, their favorite channel, Fox News or ONN or whatever the hell they want. Um,
Hmm.
it's what they do every day. They just like to respond or we will win, we will win.
Right.
But that's what they do every day. But I think you and Down shared something. He says I'm legally blind in my right eye.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I will say that like a lot of people uh misunderstand what legal blindness is. They think that if you're legally blind, that it means you're actually blind, and that's not true. Blindness is a spectrum. In fact, many people who have very, very, very low vision still have at least some degree of vision. For me, I'm blind in my right eye. I have absolutely no vision in my right eye, but I still have pretty decent vision with my glasses in my left eye. So, it's really a spectrum.
Hmm. And as you were just talking about the Democrats responding to the administrations, I just got the breaking news that DOJ releases the Maxwell interview transcripts from the Epstein files. They just did
Of
it.
course, they release it on a Friday, right?
On a Friday. Like, it's about damn time they did it.
Well, I
Like,
just think it's funny because they always release stuff like this on a Friday because they think that nobody's gonna pay attention.
yeah. And they're not going to pay attention on the weekend. I mean, it's
Right,
time.
exactly. Like the
Mm.
news isn't gonna catch up until like Monday.
And it's, I no, Hassan's checking it out right now.
Good,
But
good.
yeah. And
Sounds great.
yeah, yeah. And I saw a bunch of people talking about AI in the chat, like Soul Live, Donald James X.
Hmm.
And they said, like, AI is not going to go away. Right? AI is going to be here forever. And, like, he says companies are finding out that AI can't replace people for tasks like acquiring memory, for example. There's a token limit, which also affects repetitive tasks. AI has been to be used as a tool, not a robot. So
Yeah, I
that's
mean, I'm not. Can I speak about AI for a second?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I was
Um,
gonna ask if you had a plan for about stopping AI.
you know, I am not completely anti AI. Now, um, I think AI has its uses and it should be regulated like any other utility, right? There are, you know, a lot of ways that AI is helping people, with like certain things. AI is helpful to people in the disability community in many different ways.
Right.
Um, but it's the chat GPTs, it's the deep seeks, it's those, those kinds of programs that I am concerned about, because, and I've been guilty of this to a certain extent. Sometimes it's easier to, uh, instead of like spending time like, doing a lot of reading and stuff, sometimes it's easier to just ask an AI program, like, hey, give me information about such and such. And it, it, like, I obviously, try not to do that, because especially because I know that AI often gets it wrong. But, I think I think it has its uses, but it needs to be regulated and it needs to be controlled. And, um, yes, AI art is also
Yeah.
a massive issue. I am a mixed media artist when I actually have time to sit down and paint, and like uh, I I couldn't imagine like AI taking that from me, right?
Right.
Um, like nothing is going to, it's, AI is never going to be the same as like sitting down and doing an acrylic painting or doing an oil painting or a watercolor painting. Like it will never be able to replace those mediums, and it will never ever be able to replace the beauty of, the art that comes from people that are have the skills and the dedication to master those art mediums. So AI art is horrible and it needs to go away forever. But uh, you know, I really think that like AI should be like a tool in our toolbox that is well regulated, that we can use to help humans do work. It shouldn't be a tool that replaces humans doing work. And, I don't believe that this administration is going to be regulating AI anytime soon. So uh, you know, we certainly need to continue to like advocate for that. Um, I'm far from an AI expert, but like from what I understand about AI, I really truly think that it should be a tool that humans can use to do better work. um, and but I'm concerned that corporations will see it as, and they already are
Mm.
in many ways, seeing it as a quick fix to replace human labor. And I'll just give like a quick personal example of that. Um, Last year when I was applying for Medicaid and in-home assistance services, so like, my disabilities were kind of bad at the time, and I occasionally needed help with doing tasks around the house or like doing grocery shopping or things like that. So I was applying for services, and basically what happened was is that I went to had to fill out a form and went to speak to like a social worker. Well, the social worker does the intake, right?
Right.
And then they take that intake along with the application that I filled out, they put it into a computer, and then the AI and the computer decides whether you can receive whether you qualify and can receive services. So it's not, ultimately it's not decided by a human being. It In many cases what happens is that the computer AI, the AI program, recommends whatever services the person qualifies for, and then the social worker can then follow up and say, oh well, you qualify for such and such. But and like, I feel for social workers. They're one of the service sectors that is absolutely overworked and underpaid and understaffed. Um, and but we shouldn't be making these kinds of decisions through a computer. It should be something that a human decides. And it ultimately turned out that I didn't qualify because for two reasons: because I was considered to be too high functioning because I was able to shower by myself in the last week, and also
What?
because because I make too much money through my SSDI. So people don't understand that you have to be severely disabled. We're talking severely disabled and
Oh my God.
like dirt poor to qualify for many of these programs, because many of the requirements for these programs haven't been updated in like 30 plus years. So
Jesus.
it's it's another massive problem that we certainly need to be addressing. And but on top of all of the other massive problems we need to be addressing, but like you have to be like your income level has to be below like $900 a month, and you have to be at a place where you are so severely disabled that you can't take care of yourself. And um so because I was, like I said, I was considered too high functioning. um so like we like, so back to kind of the AI thing, like I certainly think like AI can certainly have a place in our society, but it absolutely must be regulated. And like we need to regulate the corporations that want to use it so that it doesn't replace human labor. And I also think that, like, on top of that, we also need universal basic income, so that people don't have to work like two, three jobs just to survive.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, Rich P, I gotta address you. So, and it also says this is what Republicans call quote unquote memes testing. Memes.
Oh, yeah. 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 Absolutely. I mean, Republicans, especially elected Republicans, I honestly think that elected Republicans, they know that, you know, they know that, like, most people on Medicaid are working. Something like 90% of people who receive Medicaid benefits work. And it's only like a small percentage of people that receive those benefits who can't work, that don't work, or are children. um,
Children.
so like, and I think Republican elected officials, they know that, but
Of
they
course
have
they do.
to. They know that these programs help people, and that the amount of fraud is not coming from folks that need these services that apply fraudulently. The fraud is coming from, the true fraud is an issue with the insurance companies that overcharge and exploit Medicare and Medicaid services.
Mm. Um, Now, I think you have a question for Annie. So, does Annie support Harvey J.K.'s new economic bill of rights?
um, I'm not familiar with that. An economic bill of rights. Hmm.
Hmm.
Um, do you know what he's talking about?
I think he's referring to Professor Harvey J.K. and his new economic bill of rights.
Oh, I haven't heard about that.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I mean, yeah. Thanks for the question.
Yeah, I'll have to look it up.
Me too. I'll look it up later when I get off the air. But anyway, yeah.
I'm
So
sure if it's coming from Harvey J.K., it's probably pretty good.
yeah, Stefan says yeah. Letterhead's pretty investment, I believe.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, I'll definitely look that up. I'm
mm,
very interested.
yeah, me too. I'll look that up. All right, but yeah. If you had anything, if you won and you were elected, if you had a bill for climate change and would like to regulate it, would you? What would be that plan?
Wow. So, I will start this by saying climate change is not my field of expertise, but um, it's it's certainly a massive problem. It and obviously, um, we are seeing it in like storms. Uh, we are seeing it in record breaking like summer temperatures.
Of
We
course.
are like we're seeing it also being caused by like man-made structures like the server farms that are popping up in some states. Um, and so like I I do think that we start by not having an oil executive running the EPA. We start by not repealing current environmental protections, like they recently did. Like you know, and we recognize that we need to protect our environments, and we also need to uh, recognize that we can't be rolling back programs like FEMA that are in place to respond when we have these massive um, like when we have these like major environmental disasters that are happening more and more frequently in this country. Um, you know, um, I Western Washington is somewhat protected from. We don't get like tornadoes, we don't get hurricanes, but we do have issues and concerns over earthquakes. We do get flooding up here,
Oh,
and um, we certainly have pretty good environmental protections in place in my state, and I would like to see those continue and maintain the funding that they need. Washington State is a beautiful state. It's, in my opinion, we have just some beautiful, beautiful scenery up here, and I would like it to stay that way.
mm-hmm.
Um, I am, kind of still researching my climate policies, especially for next year, um, because I feel like I will have more influence over that in the state legislature than I would as a county commissioner. But I will report back when I have more to say about climate change. But it's certainly a major problem, and um, we are, as a society, are not doing enough to protect our environments and to respond to these disasters.
Yeah. So that would have been a great question for Sandy too, because she got kicked off YouTube, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that would have been a great question. She would love to answer that question.
Oh, I'm sure she would have an amazing answer. Much better than me.
I know. Uh, um, yeah, Mitty, we'll DM you because you know the majority report chat is the best. Because I was watching Pep Talks and you got a shout out, and you said the MR chat is the best, and you said you do great work.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm I'm doing the best I can. You know, we I highly encourage lefties out there, if you have a chance to um get involved in your local communities. Check out your local DSA chapter. I highly encourage people to check out DSA, um, and try to get involved in your community if you can. And if you feel so inclined, consider running for a local office. I feel like in many leftist spaces, like the people running for federal offices get a lot of attention, as they should. But I feel like what's really going to change the tide of things in our communities, and in our states is going to be those local elections. Local elections are what we need right now. We need to be getting lefties on city councils. We need more lefties in county government. We need more lefties in our state legislatures, because that is where I believe a lot of the change is going to happen. Um, and so, like, if you feel so inclined, consider running for a local office, even if it's like just something, you know, if you feel like it's intimidating or overwhelming, start small. Like, consider like your local school board, or like maybe your city council has committees that do different types of work. Maybe consider joining a committee through your local city council. You know, it can be really fulfilling work when you are really connecting with your community and like doing the behind the scenes work that needs to be done. And I'm really hoping that, like, in the next year between now and the midterms, I'm hoping that more lefty spaces, especially lefty spaces online, will start to really give attention and space to more local elections, because, like I said, because those are the elections that are really going to change our communities. And every time that you give someone who is running for a local office a platform, a chance to speak online, it really does make a difference, and it helps us to spread our message and to get more support. And, um, you know, last year when I was running for state rep, I didn't run a traditional campaign because I'm disabled, so I can't go do door knocking. And I had I can't be going to all the meetings physically all the time. I, you know, it's harder. It's more challenging for me to physically be in my community sometimes. So, what really I feel like really made a difference in my campaign was online organizing. And I learned online organizing through online organizing in the disability community, because disability, like, people in the disability community, we do a ton of work online. um and so like I was online as much as I could be. I held like town hall meetings in the park that sometimes nobody came to, but I went out there and I, made myself available. I had AMAs on Reddit. I tried to like, go on lefty YouTube channels when I could. I
Like
was
left a little
on social
in the chat.
media. Yes. And like so so what I'm saying is that like you can there are ways to do it in the non-traditional route if you are feeling like you can't do it, or you're feeling that you know you won't be able to get the traction. And I'm going to tell you right now, like I had a very small group of volunteers. I had maybe like 6 people that were regularly helping me from last summer all the way through to the general. Um, so like I um had to do a lot of the work on my own. I had to, really get out there and advocate for myself. But it was worth doing because I care about and I love my community. And I also care about and love the minority population in my community that is massively underrepresented. And that is ultimately why I chose to run in the first place, was because I wanted to be one of the first, like, visibly disabled representatives in my state legislature, um, as a Democratic Socialist. And um, I'm not just saying that to like toot my own horn or anything. I'm saying that because we are underrepresented. I'm saying that because a lot of our electeds don't understand the needs of minorities. They don't understand the needs of people that have disabilities. And so, like, that was my goal. And I even though we ran a grassroots campaign and put in a lot of time and a lot of work and did things the non-traditional way, I am very proud of my group of volunteers, and I am very proud of how far we were able to go uh, with grassroots fundraising even. And um, next year we'll come back bigger and better.
Wow. Wow.
Next year we
Yeah.
will win.
Not like we will win. We will win. Yeah, so like I was referring to Sandy left of the box, she did have a history in Canada of running, but she lost. Even though she's non-binary. She's mentioned the story so many times because I'm on for her. But she's also done protests. She's gone to protests. She's gone to Palestine protests. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
no. I'm sorry. Israel protests on Israel and support for Palestine, and she's
I
been
have two.
active, a volunteer. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have two. Um, it's a little bit more difficult for me to go to protests because, um, at least when the pro-Palestine protests started popping up in like after October 7th, it was a little bit harder for me to attend because I was, using a broken wheelchair at the time. I have a new wheelchair now, but I had to use a broken wheelchair at the time, and um, the a lot of times the organizers, um, it was hard. It can be difficult to attend a protest in a wheelchair, especially if the organizers are not familiar with how to organize a protest that allows for the accessibility of disabled participants. But from my experience, it got better with time, and um, that like if you have a protest, make sure that you allow the people in wheelchairs and disabled people to lead, to be at the front of those protests and set the pace. Because if you go too fast, then people in wheelchairs and people with mobility issues can kind of get left behind. So, like, organizers in my area in Seattle have gotten much better about that since then. But I also, like, people in wheelchairs, people with mobility needs, we take a risk every time we go to a protest because cops love to bat at people with mobility equipment. They've knocked people out of wheelchairs before. So if anything, like sometimes physical protests are much more difficult to for disabled people to attend. So if you have like know somebody that is disabled, has mobility issues, and y'all are going to a protest together, you know, please try to help them. Please try to, help them navigate the protest. Please try to, you know, um, kind of protect their mobility equipment to a certain extent, because we are, you know, sometimes we're taking a bigger risk, and mobility equipment is very expensive and very difficult to replace if it gets damaged or destroyed. So,
Mm,
um, and and we rely on that mobility equipment to move around in the world. So I may not have been able to like physically attend as many protests as I would have liked, but it doesn't mean that I'm not out there participating and like advocating for Palestinians in other ways. Um, Protest, like physically protesting, is wonderful and it should absolutely continue. But there are many different ways that you can advocate for Palestinians
yeah,
and other groups.
yeah, yeah. So everybody should continue to support Palestine and give a big fuck you to Israel. But I see you, Sandy. She says, I tried to become a federal candidate, but didn't pass the vetting. It didn't pass the vetting the second time. The first time I ran, lost to become the candidate.
Oh, that's terrible.
Mm-hmm. And that's Canadian
That's
politics for
awful.
you.
Yeah, I am not that familiar with Canadian politics, but that sounds terrible. I mean, we
Mm-hmm.
need we need more minority representation, whether, that's people of color, it's people with disabilities, it's members of the LGBTQIA communities. Like, we need more minority representation so that we have people in elected office that understand the needs of these minority communities.
Of course, of course. I mean, open yourself up, run for office. I mean, don't be crooked as my mayor, who is in getting ready to go to court for a personal relationship with a personal bodyguard. And
Oh Lord.
yeah, yeah, she's supposed to be arraigned like a couple weeks. Uh, and don't be as fucking crooked as my MAGA governor over here. And yeah, so just think about what you're going to do. Think about what your plan is, and think about who you're going to attract. And just
Yeah.
don't even think about sucking yourself into APAC, or I would say, or those big donor monies or whatever.
Yeah, can I offer a word of advice for potential candidates? Also, like, there are a lot of services out there in the US that will, like, once you okay, let me back up a second.
Mm.
So there's like a lot of prep work that goes into becoming a candidate before you even announce that you are a candidate, right? So, like, um like so and before you even register with your state as a candidate. Um, and um, so like people don't understand that there's like a lot of prep work, and then um, there are you'll probably, once you register with your state and become like an official candidate and all that, your email inbox, your mailbox is going to be flooded with different companies and stuff, like, offering you flyers and like, offering you consultation services and all kinds of stuff. So like um but a lot of those services can be super expensive, and I also think that that is like an obstacle that stops many people from running for office, is that it can be super expensive to be a candidate in the first place.
Uh-huh.
And um so, um, there are also a lot of like free services out there that you can look up online. And like, when I was running last year, I found like a Democrat like training website that had like a lot of free seminars and like articles on how to do this, that, and the other thing in your campaign, how to advocate for yourself, how to fundraise, blah blah blah, do all these different, parts that of a campaign. But I would advise you to be somewhat critical of some of those services as well if you choose to run, because the although like advice for like fundraising, advice for like messaging and like um how to do your like campaign reporting and all that kind of stuff. It's like fairly generic, important information to have. I'm not sure if I would use the free service that I used again, because it was not like coming from a progressive perspective. It was like generic Democrat type advice. So try to connect with, like, try to find, and I know they're out there, but try to find advice from like progressive services online. Sometimes you can get
Mm-hmm.
consultations, but at least the initial consultation can be free, and you can get a little bit of help from that. Um, but also that's why I also think it's important to try to connect with um, like especially socialist organizations like DSA, because DSA offers like a lot of training, um, and I'm sure Indivisible has candidate training. I'm sure there are other places out there that you can connect to that do offer candidate training and support. Um, but I think what's ultimately important is that you stick to your values. I maintained throughout my entire campaign that I was a democratic socialist, because um, like I believe that you know um, a lot of people misunderstand what a democratic socialist is,
Yeah.
and it's become kind of like a dirty word in some circles, and even in some Democrat circles. And, they just look at us and think that we're crazy lefties.
Oh.
Um, but like, we, I made it a point to, like, in every interview, in every chance I got, to say I'm a democratic socialist, and I encourage people to join GSA, because we need to destigmatize what it means to be a democratic socialist, and explain to people that really what it boils down to is fighting for the working class to have more power, fighting for working class issues, and um and messaging around that. And you know, I think Democrats especially are coming around to that. I think a lot of Democrats are waking up and realizing that, you know, democratic socialism is the way to go, baby. It is the future,
Yeah,
and
baby.
it's time to get on board. You know, if you want that juicy free healthcare, if you want, union support, if you want, a free college, and all these, other socialist
USA,
policies that will
baby.
help uplift and empower the working class, then these are the policies and these are the things that we need to be fighting for. And it starts at the local level. It starts in your community, and
Mhm.
you gather that community support. And as you build that community support, it'll keep growing and growing and growing. And then you know maybe someday we can have socialist governments across the country.
Okay, yeah. Beacon, let me address this. You might have missed this. Annie, are you thinking of running again in the future? You might have missed this in the beginning. You might want to address that again to BCAT.
Yes, yes, BCAT, of course. I am exploring options for running again in my Washington State legislature options for next year. I have not made an official announcement for next year, but it's pretty likely that I'll probably be running in the same race as last year, against the same candidate. Haven't made a final decision yet, but that's kind of the direction I'm probably going to go. And right now, I am also technically running for Snohomish County Charter Review Commission, which I said earlier is basically a commission that uh, meets every 10 years. It is a nonpartisan, unpaid position. And basically, what it does is it um, like sets the laws and regulations for the county government.
Oh.
If anything, I think it's really important. It's a really, like, even though it's like way at the bottom of the ballot, I think it's and I'm not currently doing any fundraising for it. It's more of a messaging campaign than it is anything else. I think it's super important because um, people on that commission, like, in many ways will guide our county council for the next 10 years. So I don't know uh, how other states do it, but that's how Washington does it.
Mm-hmm. Uh, yeah. Compared to my home state, Louisiana, I'm not sure, but they just screw it the hell up. But
I'm
yeah,
sure you
we
probably have
are.
some I'm sure you
Uh,
probably have some form of like county government.
we don't call it.
Um
We call it parishes.
oh, okay. Okay, so I'm sure you have some sort of like parish governing body.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
But anyway, we are close to the 2 hour mark. If you want to get any
Mhm.
final thoughts, then I'll let you promote your work. You can go ahead.
Awesome. Well, first, I just want to say thank you, Mooney, for being a longtime friend and supporter of
No
me
problem.
and the work that I am doing. And like, I especially want to say thank you for your support of me at the beginning of the year when I was sick and
Oh,
going
no problem.
through chemotherapy. And like I want to thank everyone who supported me during that time, whether it was just like words of support or financial support. Like it enabled me to receive the treatment that I needed, and I'm doing like much better now. So first, I feel like I need to say thank you for that. But like, man, I although it's the future is scary for us leftists, especially those of us in the U.S. Um, I do have some hope. I have hope. Lefties are we're rising up. We're seeing more and more progressive and socialist candidates um, stepping up to the plate, and we are like we're rising up and we're ready to fight back against this fascist regime. Um, and we're not going to back down. We're not going to take let them take away our rights and take away our liberty. And so uh, so yeah, so I will, continue to do the work that I'm doing in DSA. I will continue to be advocating for universal health care through whole Washington and the Washington Health Trust. I encourage, folks to get involved, in your local communities and Sandy's right, like take care of yourself first, but also you
Yeah.
know do what you can to look out for your neighbors, to look out for your community, and support. Let let your minority populations know that you have their back and that they're not alone, because we really need that right now. And you guys, I'm hoping Looney will have me on again in the future, and
Of course.
maybe we'll be able to talk more about my campaign for next year.
Yeah, of
And
course.
um yeah, and so just thank you so much for having me on today. You can check out my website and message me at electanniefitzgerald.com, and uh, continue to follow me as I work to bring socialism to my little corner of the world.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you so much for coming on today, and yeah, and you got a compliment from Sandy. She says she's
Thank
got
you, Sandy.
you're doing well, and I'm sure she'll shout you out tonight. 6 Eastern tonight. Everybody go check that out tonight. 6 Eastern, left of the box, Andy. Lopez. Probably a Canadian news stream tonight. Go ahead, check that out. 6 Eastern. Go subscribe to that if you haven't done so. But again, thank you so much for coming on, Andy. I'll probably have you on again in the future.
Awesome. That sounds great. I look forward to it. And take care of yourselves out there, and get involved in your community if you can.
No problem. All right, so that's the show for this week. So next week is going to be a personal one. I'm going to share my story about Katrina. I may show about 2 videos from 2005, and then I'll take some questions from you guys in the chat. I'll be next week on Fridays with LT9K. So join me next week. For now, what do I always say in the chats? Stay woke, stay gay, and peace on. I hope to see y'all in the chat.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.